Did you fall in love with a cheater? Like, did you marry someone that has been cheating on you, or that you knew was a cheater, but you married them anyway? You thought you could fix it. You thought you could work it out. You thought it would stop. They said, I'm done with being unfaithful. The only person I want is you. And now here you are. You've discovered perhaps that they have continued the unfaithfulness, and it's devastating to you. It's demoralizing. It can take the wind out of you. It's helpful if you can simply ask yourself this question: why did I marry this person? Why did I fall in love with this person? Why did I give my life, my heart, my trust to someone who is a cheater? And it's possible that you had no idea, but there were probably some inklings of suspicion along the way. And in this video, I want to talk to you about why it is that people oftentimes end up with someone who's unfaithful to them. Because when you marry someone who's unfaithful to you, when you fall in love with someone who's unfaithful to you, nothing will cause and wreak more havoc in your life than that infidelity, that betrayal. You can have headaches in life, but the headaches that hurt the worst are the ones that come from relationships, and especially when trust has been destroyed. So my hope is that this video is going to help you get clear. And at the end of the video, I want to make sure that you grab my first 5 things to do after you discover infidelity, because you need a game plan. You need to know, what do I do from here? Do I stay? Do I go? How do I get myself to emotional safety? You want to make sure that you have a game plan. Maybe you discovered this a long time ago, but you have been sort of paralyzed as to what to do next. So make sure that you download, it's a free download for you, the first 5 things to do after you discover infidelity. My name is Rod Harrison. I'm an executive marriage coach. I work with really high-performing couples who are tremendous people, but oftentimes struggle to make their marriages and relationships work. But they want to have and build a great marriage and have a thriving family. And so that's the space that I love to operate in. And if that's you, I hope you'll get a lot of value out of this video today. All right, if that's not you, I hope you get a lot of value out of this video, because infidelity strikes, and it doesn't care how much money you make. It doesn't care what title you have. It doesn't care how long you've been married or how long you've been in love with someone. It can strike. So let's talk about why you may have fallen in love with a cheater. The first reason is that you expected exclusivity. You actually expected exclusivity. You say, well, what's wrong with that? Shouldn't I expect the person that I want to be with for the rest of my life to be faithful to me? Yeah, you should. You should have that right to a reasonable expectation that the other person is going to be faithful to you, and they should have the expectation that you're going to be faithful to them. The challenge is that in the world we live in today, you cannot assume or expect it without a conversation. And I'm wondering, did you have the conversation? Did you make your expectations clear? Did you lay out, this is an expectation that I have, that you have not cheated before we got married or before we get married, and that you don't plan to cheat? You intend to be faithful, and that we will build the kind of love, the kind of marriage and relationship where we put safeguards around our relationship so that we don't end up being unfaithful to one another. Expectations are really powerful because they set the tone for what should happen in the future. But most people don't articulate their expectations. Most people have expectations that they don't name, and so people don't realize it. And you'd be amazed. Some people enter into marriages, into relationships like, well, I thought you knew that I was probably gonna, at some point or once in a while. So you got to name your expectations. My framework around expectations is that they should be named and framed. To name it is simply to say, this is what I expect. This is what I need from you. This is what I desire. This is my longing, my expectation. You got to name it. And then you should frame it. This is why this is important to me. Like, do not cheat on me. An adulterer, don't be that to me, because I went through that when I was growing up. I saw that happen in my parents' relationship, or I saw friends go through this, and I know how painful that is. And I don't want to experience that. That's how you frame it. That's how you give why this is so important to you. And the underlying assumption here is that you're in a relationship with somebody who cares about what you feel, who cares about what's important to you. If they haven't cared about what's important to you, the likelihood is that they're not going to care about what's important to you. But the reason you may have fallen into this relationship and married someone who is unfaithful to you is because there was never the simple, clear expectation expressed, like, don't do this to me. Do not, whatever happens in this relationship, this is something I cannot deal with. Put it out there. Lay it out there. If you're not married yet, put it out there. Lay it out there. Make your expectations known. Here's the second reason why people oftentimes marry an unfaithful person, a cheater. It's because you want it to be wanted. You want it to be wanted. You're like, well, Rod, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with wanting to be wanted? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be wanted. It's just that sometimes we can be so desperate to be wanted that we overlook, and we'll talk about this in a moment, we overlook some obvious warning signs. The desperation, the deep desire to be wanted because perhaps you've been waiting to get married, or perhaps because you struggle with low self-esteem, has made you really want to be wanted. And in that very vulnerable place that you were in your life, you chose somebody who would be unfaithful to you. And so don't beat yourself down. Just recognize that that's one of the really, really common reasons why people end up in relationships with someone who is not faithful to them. You want it to be wanted. It makes us vulnerable, as I mentioned, and oftentimes it comes from somewhere in our lives. You can track back to your primary caregivers, your parents. What was that relationship like? And this is no shade on them, but we all grow up in relationship dynamics, and maybe you felt unseen, you felt uncared for, you felt like what was important to you wasn't often important to them. And so you can develop a pattern on your journey in your life where you feel like, I just need somebody to want me. So you want it to be wanted. And please don't take that as a statement of some defect in you, because that's not what it is. But it does make us vulnerable. And I want you to understand that. So you want to go back and ask yourself, was I desperate to be wanted? Was I vulnerable? Did I make myself vulnerable? Was that one of the challenges that led me to marry this person who I discovered, or perhaps knew, was likely being unfaithful to me? All right, let me talk about this last reason, because I think it too is important. You overlooked the obvious. You overlooked the obvious. When I was working with student athletes on college campuses at UCLA and Howard University, one of the most common things that we dealt with was athletes who were unfaithful to their girlfriends, or girlfriends who were unfaithful to their boyfriends. It went both ways. And so we saw this constant pattern of unfaithfulness and cheating. And then these people would go and get married. Are you tracking with me? And so they would get married, oftentimes to the same person they cheated on. And the discussion would go something like this: well, we forgave each other. Well, that's behind us. Yes, we're still very much in love. But what they didn't do was actually resolve it. And so what I say to people oftentimes is, what you don't resolve will revolve. And if you don't address it, if you don't work it out, if you don't really work to heal it and end it, things will begin to devolve. They go south, because unfaithfulness you saw before you got married and you didn't deal with it will likely become unfaithfulness in the marriage. And the longer you don't deal with it, the longer you don't go to get some therapy or some coaching, some professional support, the more likely your relationship will be vulnerable to it. But oftentimes there were signs, there were indicators, there were things that we didn't pay attention to. And so I want to really challenge you, if you're not married, don't overlook the obvious. Don't overlook the things that you see that hurt you. Don't overlook the things like they don't seem to really care about me. They don't prioritize me. Was working with a couple recently who said to me, when we were in college, I was always the one buying the gifts. I was always the one planning the dates. I was always the one, and he never did any of that. And in their marriage, in fact, in their dating relationship, they said, and there was infidelity. I said, well, why did you marry the person you married? She says, I don't know. I think I just overlooked the obvious, and I wish I had it. But now here I am. Here we are. Thankfully, they are working on it and overcoming it, and I think they're going to have an amazing marriage. They got a beautiful family, but they're now putting in work, and that work has taken years to help them recover. So why do we marry people who are unfaithful to us? One, because we don't express clearly our expectations. Two, is because we often want to be wanted. And three, is because you overlook the obvious. Now, in my next video, I'm going to share with you some very key things that you need in order to resolve the infidelity. Yes, it's a journey, but I got a roadmap for you, and I'm going to help you see that there's some very key things that if you do them, if there's been infidelity in your relationship, you can absolutely overcome them. Be sure to download the 5 things to do first after you discover infidelity. Again, maybe you discovered this a year ago or 2 years ago, but you got to begin somewhere, and you can absolutely recover if you're both willing to do the very important work. Hey, I'm in your corner. I want to see you win. If you're married, I certainly don't want to see you throw away that marriage. Don't throw it away. Do some work, and let's get the best out of that relationship, that marriage, the way you dreamed about it, the way you long for it. It's absolutely possible. Hey, I'm Rod Harrison. It was great to be with you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.